This is top color Rwandan amethyst. Up until the 1800s, Russia was a major source of amethyst. Rich, dark purple with beautiful purple or magenta flashes came from Siberia, and top-colored amethyst was from then on called Siberian amethyst. Today, Siberian amethyst denotes the top color of amethyst and not the region where the amethyst was originally mined. In the small African nation of Rwanda, which is on the western border of Tanzania, a country noted for gemstones like tanzanite, amethyst was discovered in 2015. The top Rwandan amethyst has a unique depth of color and a phenomenal red-violet color that in daylight this stone often displays a strong color shift going from bluish purple to purple. Many, but not all, gem cutters believe that the top Rwandan amethyst is the finest amethyst in the world so far. Unfortunately, the amethyst found in Rwanda was quickly mined out, and within just a couple of years, the mines were depleted. Now, any amethyst being mined in Rwanda is generally not the top quality that was initially found. It has all been mined out. If you are lucky, every once in a while, you will see some rough come onto the market. A lot of people have hoarded this rough since 2015. So the rough is out there, you just have to wait for it to pop up. Thanks to Joe H., a couple of pieces of Rwandan amethyst became available recently. Thanks, Joe. I have found that for me personally, when I cut more than one stone with the same design at the same time, the second or even third stone cuts very quickly compared to the first stone. So I am also going to use the same design that I cut this Rwandan amethyst with to cut two citrine gemstones that I also got from Joe H. Thanks, Joe. Today I will be cutting a basic rectangular or emerald-shaped design. I'll use the design that I found on the Australian Fasteners Guild website. Gem faceting clubs are an excellent source for finding gem cutting designs. You can find and download this design from the Australian Fasteners Guild website. Okay, I want to take our Rwandan amethyst and look at it in refractol and see what the insides look like and trim it up a bit. I need to trim a few pieces off of this to cut some stones. So let's see what we've got in refractol. Okay. So you can see there's clear quartz here, and here color zoning it's called, that I'll trim off. You can also see into the stone. I don't see a lot of inclusions. I don't see any inclusions in the stone on this side. So same thing, there's a fair amount of color zoning at the end. I'm going to trim that clear quartz off right there, and looking for inclusions that are deep in the stone. I'm not seeing a whole lot. There's an inclusion there, but it's near the surface. There's something there, and of course the end here is all got to be ground off. So I'll start by trimming off this clear quartz. Looks like about a diagonal part right there with my trim saw. So I've marked two quick cuts that I'll make with my trim saw. One right like that. I've marked them with my black permanent marker, my Sharpie, and one right there. And then I'll see where we're at. So I trimmed off this piece. As you can see, it's clear quartz. There's no such premium market for clear Rwandan quartz. Same with this end piece. So now we've got our piece of rough. Looks much more uniform in color. Nice Rwandan amethyst color. So I'll probably grind this end piece with my lap, and or maybe I'll take that to the trim saw too and just trim that end piece off. It's got a portion of a millimeter of clear quartz before it goes into the color. So let me trim that off next. Just the end. The end has rock and then a clear little band of clear quartz. So I'll trim that off too. Okay, I've got trimmed up a nice piece that I need. It's about the right shape for what I'm looking for our Rwandan amethyst. It's all trimmed up, ready to put on the dopstick. Have a little tiny trim piece, may be able to use, and most of our bigger Rwandan amethyst still remains for whatever I want to cut with that later. Okay, I'm going to cut 2 other stones with my Rwandan amethyst with the same design. The Rwandan amethyst is the biggest stone that I'll use. It's about 20 carats. It's 19.77 carats. The second stone is about 9 carats. It's 8.98 carats. And this is Bahia citrine from Brazil. Put it in the refractol, and you can see that it's gone pretty much as a blob, which is what you want. No internal inclusions to this stone. And our final third stone will be the Santa Anta Madeira colored citrine from Brazil. Santa Anta Madeira citrine is actually from a mine in Uruguay, so this must be the color of Santa Anta Madeira citrine. And we see a few specks, looks like on the surface. I'm not seeing a lot of internal inclusions with this one. There's something up there, right there at the top. I think that'll get cut out. So could have some minor issues with this Madeira citrine, but it looks like for the most part it's clean. I see 3, 4 inclusions all near the surface, so we should be okay. So those are the stones we're going to cut. When I finish with these 3 gemstones, they should look like this from the top, side, and bottom if I've cut them correctly. Don't worry if you don't understand some of the instructions and information listed here in the gem design. I explained all the information in gem designs in a 2-part video, so go take a look at those videos if you have any questions. The key to accurately cutting this design is to ensure you have an exact 1 to 1.25 length to width ratio. You define the length and width of your gemstone in Pavilion Cutting Instructions 1 and 2 of this design. You cut instruction 1 and 2 at a 90-degree angle to form the girdle of the gemstone. Instruction 1, you cut index teeth 96 and 48 to set the width of the gemstone, and in instruction 2, you cut index tooth 24 and 72 to set the length of the gemstone. Focus on cutting these first 4 facets as exact as you can, as you need to ensure a ratio of 1 to 1.25. So this means if you cut a width of 10 millimeters, you need to multiply 10 by 1.25, which equals 12.5 millimeters. And you need to cut the length at 12.5 millimeters. Now this design is very forgiving, and you can violate this 1 to 1.25 rule with no problems to your design. But if you're trying to match this design as closely as possible, then do your best to try to hit a perfect 1 to 1.25 length to width ratio. Okay, for our first stone, the Rwandan Amethyst, I have finished instructions 1 through 8 on the Pavilion with all the laps through the 12M, or basically a 1200 grit. It's really a 1500 grit, but that level. Now, I just closed out the gap that was between the the keel here of the stove with my 12M. So before that, there was still a little gap here. I didn't worry about it at that point. I don't worry about making a temporary kind of center point on the keel with the rougher laps, because my experience was just see a bunch of chips. So at the 12M, that's when I close that up. The other thing you'll notice, I have not cut any of the corners yet. And the reason is I wanted to get the length and width set, the keel closed, and then work on instructions 9, 10, and 11, which close out, which deal with the corners. So that's where we are. So I'll cut the corners now. I'll probably cut them with the 12M. I may not cut them all the way down to where they need to be. I'll just kind of cut them a little bit so that with my 3000 grit diamond on the bat lap, it doesn't have to work so hard. So I'll probably just do a little bit of preforming with the 12M on the corners. Okay, the way I approached the pavilion for this amethyst is I went ahead and polished all 4 sides, and now I'll go back and cut the corners. And the reason is that I made sure that at each row, the line on the side matches perfectly the line along the long side. So the long side and the width all match. The next line matches the next side. So it's all lined up. And now I just cut a facet, kind of a arrowhead facet to touch this line, and then another facet to touch this line, which will have a straight top. And then I know where to cut my girdle at. So now I'll go back to the 3000 grit diamond on a bat lap and cut the corners, and then polish them with cerium oxide and a tin lap. Okay, I finished polishing the amethyst with cerium oxide, and I think it worked best by doing the corners last. I think that really helped me line up the lines of each of the rows and then work the corners. So I think the Australians set it up right with this design. Okay, to place our second Madeira into our spindle of our Ultratech, what we do is we set the dial indicator at 96 degrees, 96 tooth, and that's gonna give us our lengthwise. So we orient the stone so that the long way is facing there in 96 degrees, and tighten it down. Now we're ready to start cutting our second stone. Okay, I finished polishing the Bahia citrine, and I haven't touched the corners yet, instructions 9, 10, and 11, because I wanted to make sure, again, as with the first stone, and same thing I'll do in the Madeira citrine, is I make sure all the lines perfectly match on the sides, the length side and the width side for all those tiers. And now I'll cut the angles. So I'll go with the 3000 grit diamond on a bat lap for instructions 9 and 10, and probably have to go back to a 12M for instruction 11, which is on the girdle, because that's going to be a pretty wide cut. So I'll go back to just back to pre-polishing the first 2 tiers and the 12M for the 3rd tier, and then we'll polish those. Since I'm working on 3 stones at the same time, I decided to test out my new 3rd transfer fixture, or what I and most cutters call the transfer jig. Big thanks to Bill Compliment up in the great state of Ohio. He made this transfer fixture for me. Pretty cool. The little hole in the center has set screws, and he also developed a brass kind of sleeve for it. And this accessory, the purpose of that is that you can use this transfer fixture to line up 2 dots and slide the sleeve over the 2 dots. If the sleeve slides easily, then the dots are correctly and basically milled perfectly. They're in tolerance. Bill's transfer jig slides two dots together when you do the transfer, and he created this transfer jig to be very, very accurate to ensure an accurate transfer. I also increased my supply of brass dots by about 30 from Bill. Oh, and he made these two wood dot holders for me also. I always wanted these, but I don't have a drill press, so I never got around to making them myself. Thanks, Bill. I'm not sure when Bill is going to make more dots. The price of brass has gone up quite a bit recently, and he's waiting for a price drop for better prices. Bill did say he was planning on making another 5 transfer fixtures in the future, so if you're interested, contact Bill up in Ohio. He's on Facebook. Bill is undecided if he's going to add that special accessory to his new transfer jigs to test the tolerance of dots or not, so you'll have to ask him about that. Bill was pretty busy this winter keeping the snow at bay, but I think now he has more time to work on other things besides snow removal, like making more transfer fixtures, at least until next winter. Thanks again, Bill. For the crown or upper half of our amethyst, the corners have already been defined when we finished up the pavilion, so we don't have to do the corners last. We know exactly what size to make them. We matched the first corner up with the girdle, so we can go ahead and cut all the facets in a tier or row at the same time. So I'll probably go through the 320 topper lap, the 600 topper lap, and then a 12M 3000 grit diamond on a bat lap, and then polish with cerium oxide on a tin lap, and then we'll be ready to cut the table. So I finished polishing the upper half or table of our amethyst, and just have to finish cutting and polishing the table, and I'll do all 3 of the stones at the same time. So I'll take this out, put the next one in, and finish up the crown on the next one. Okay, I finished polishing the upper half, the crown of our Madeira citrine, and now I'll take it out of the DOP and put the Bahia citrine in, and then when I finish the crown of that, I'll just have to polish the 3 tables, and we'll set up our machine for the table cuts and do all 3 tables at once. Okay, I finished polishing our 3 emerald cut gemstones, and now I'll soak them in acetone and take them off the DOP, and we'll take a closer look at them, weigh them, measure them, and send them to BOPIE. This design is perfect for a new cutter and could definitely be the first stone a new cutter facets. In my opinion, the first gemstone a new cutter should cut is a standard round brilliant, followed by a square step cut, and then this design. But I do know some faceting instructors who do not teach cutting the standard round brilliant first. So this could very well be a first stone cut by a cutter. Overall, this is a fun design to cut, and I think it looks great in both amethyst and citrine. Please let me know in the comments what you think of the design and of these 3 gemstones that I've cut. Happy faceting, everyone!